Dudes and dudettes, how are you guys? This is Chazzy and welcome back to Chazzy, the segment on this channel where I review the many television series that I watch over the years, whether they're, regular kinds of genres like mystery, drama, action, thriller, documentary. I don't know what I'm saying. I tried to make a new kind of intro here, but it doesn't make any sense. I'm just kind of winging it at this point. It's just to emphasize that today I'm actually going to be covering something that's a little bit out of the box, sort of out of the ordinary. It is a docu-series about a sports team, which I happen to love so much, man. I have become such a fan of this series here since I signed up for Amazon Prime. You guys might be familiar with the All or Nothing series, where actually each one of them is an entire different basis around a certain kind of sports team, where they go behind the scenes showing us, what it's like outside of the games and stuff. And today, because I've been doing more hockey related content lately, and also because I shaved and I've been looking really sexy today, although my skin kind of burns because I just moisturized and it's kind of sticking a little bit. Today, I'm going to be covering All or Nothing Toronto Maple Leafs, which is a very popular ice hockey team based in, of course, Canada, Now, here's the thing. This series here was released in 2021. However, if I'm not mistaken, it covers the 2020 NHL season, like the 2019, 2020, 2020, 2021 season, which is when the COVID hit. So we actually see a lot of different dynamics playing out because of the coronavirus pandemic, and how exactly the players reacted to it. But essentially, this series here gives us an all-access look behind the scenes of the Toronto Maple Leafs as they play through the NHL. So we see not only the players going through their, on-ice and off-ice relationships, their personal lives, and also the front office, how there were many younger players who came into the Toronto Maple Leafs in that season. We see a lot of the managerial staff, the coaches, it shows us literally the whole 9 yards, and it's really awesome how deep they dive, because the Toronto Maple Leafs are a largely successful team in the NHL, and we see a lot of that success in this series here. But we also see, aside from the triumphs, we also see a lot of the setbacks, the negative aspects, like the injuries that the players suffer. It's really, really deep. And throughout the series, there are only 5 episodes, just one season, but it's cool because each one is very long, upwards of like 40 minutes to an hour. So it's really awesome to show exactly how the dynamics play out there, because remember, in the midst of this NHL season, there was a certain lockout because of the COVID, so we see the toll that it takes on the players outside of the ice, like what exactly is this virus, how dangerous is it, am I going to catch it, is my family going to get it from me, this and that, are we ever going to play hockey again? We see so much of that, new players being coming in and signing and seeing how their relationship with their new peers are, they really do form a bond, and it's amazing to watch these sports series and see how much more depth there is to a sports team right under the surface. We never see that when we watch a game. We're like, okay, the players look like they're getting along, they're playing well, this and that. And even if we follow them on social media, it's not the same as watching an all-access series showing us every little detail behind it. And the Maple Leafs, man, boy, do they have some stories to tell in the locker room. It's really cool how the relationship plays out with the players and the coaches right before a certain game, or during intermissions, or after a game, depending on if they win or lose or draw, go to overtime, the coach has a lot of different reactions. So it's very similar to this series that I reviewed last year, which was All or Nothing Manchester City, literally the same exact thing but a different sport, but that's awesome because the formula doesn't change, just the sport and the teams. And that's what I'm going to be covering today, the Toronto Maple Leafs. And before I get into it, let's take a look at a clip here from the series, or rather the docu-series.
In Toronto, everything revolves around hockey. When we're doing well, the city's on a high. When we're not, it's full panic. Just a kid from the neighborhood. We're all kids from the neighborhood.
It is honestly a dream of mine to watch this series, but based around my, hockey team. In case you guys don't know, I support the Florida Panthers, so it was really great to see this series here as a hockey fan, but, I couldn't help but feel like there was something missing. Like, I never saw any of my sports teams in any of these, because Amazon Prime has a few of them, quite a few. They have All or Nothing with football teams, this one hockey team, soccer teams, None of them are ever my teams in any of the sports that I watch, They haven't done one for basketball yet. I guess maybe the NBA didn't give them the licensing, but still, I would love to see that for my team, But anyway, now here's the thing. There are just 5 episodes, and I unfortunately don't remember too many details because it's been a while since I've watched it, and there is a lot of information coming into each one, so I'm going to have to use a little cheat sheet here and redirect from the synopsis from each episode because I don't remember too much. But I can tell you that the first episode is called Playoff Habits, where the coach is actually head coach Sheldon Keefe, he's trying to make the players instill playoff habits in their playing prowess. So basically, he really obviously, as every coach, wants the Maple Leafs to make the playoffs, for the Stanley Cup. So he's trying to sort of, lead the team to create better habits and be more mature and play better, because there were a few surprising games in that season there. Like, I believe it was against the Chicago Blackhawks where the Maple Leafs were up by like 4 or 5 goals, and yet the Blackhawks came back and won. I think they either won 5-4 or 6-5, something crazy like that, because they didn't have the playoff habit in them. They weren't as aggressive, as the coach wanted them to be. So it shows us a lot of that. Tries to give them those vibes from the get-go. There was a player named Joe Thornton who actually got hurt, who's the really big bearded guy, so he breaks a rib, so he's out for quite a few games. We also see a lot of Austin Matthews, who is my personal favorite player on the team, and his relationship with the coach. And also, they have different thoughts about the strategies, There are different visits as well, like they go to Arizona. The Arizona visit is actually with Emma and Brian Matthews, his parents, because it's really cool, because one of the best things about these series is showing the players' dynamics at home, how they are outside of the sport. So we actually see Austin Matthews' parents, in Arizona, and showing how proud they are of him, and how he really did grow up loving hockey. They have a bunch of Toronto Leafs merch in their house. They're always watching the games on TV and stuff, It's really cool to see how the athletes' families react in this time, that we actually see that they are just regular people with families who are at home watching them do their work on TV. It's really awesome. Episode 2 is called The Pieces on the Board, and it's a little bit more technical, because as they start to reach the halfway point of the season, different players start to have different thoughts about what's going on in the team, So there are different players that are getting many injuries. There were quite a few injuries here, Even their captain at one point got hurt. So it's really hard, because hockey is a very rough sport, guys. It might not surprise you to find out that it's very, very violent, Even if you're not a fan. The players do get hurt quite frequently. It can really hamper them throughout the season. So Tavares is actually the captain, and he works on his game, Different players want to get more ice time, so they're trying to just trying to train more and get their and try to get their pieces on the board, like the coach said. So then, as the lineup starts to stabilize, there is even a barber who helps, them look fresh a little bit outside of the bowl, because at this point the COVID is already happening. They are starting to create the NHL bubble, which is basically when the players are isolated from the rest of the world. We see more visits with the family members, outside of the visit, like for example Kyle Dubas. Episode 3 is called Blue Swan. Now at this point, the COVID is really ravaging. It's starting to overtake the NHL, which has now officially given them a lockout. So now it starts to ravage more across the North Division, and also teams from over there are starting to get more COVID. The players are being tested for it. Some are positive, some are negative, but there is a decision to temporarily end the NHL because of that. Then we see different players doing some off-ice bonding, like defensemen. The players do hang out together outside of the sport. They go to places. They might go to have lunch or dinner. They might go to do some other miscellaneous activities. Very similar to NHL, the games in career mode, where you can actually go and do stuff with the players. They do form a brotherhood. They do really become friends for as long as they're playing there. We see a lot of that as well. So there are, and different players are trying to break different records in AHL history, so it's really cool to see how that affects them as well. Then Dubas and Co. actually prepare for the trade deadline, which actually brings some new exciting players. So new players come in, and it's really cool because one of them actually bonds very quickly with the team. At one point, I think in his first few games, he actually goes out of his way to fight one of the players who injured his captain Tavares, who was sent out with the injury. He was even bleeding. So as soon as the face-off started, he dropped his gloves and fought the guy who hurt his captain. So there was an immediate bond formed there, because this is hockey, man. It's very rough and really aggravating sometimes, and hard to watch the aggressiveness, but the players really at the end of the day are very close because of this. Episode 4 is called the stretch run, because the playoffs are just around the corner now. So the Maple Leafs are really struggling to play as much as they can, put up as many points and wins as they can on the board, trying really hard to make their dynamics play out that way. But there is a player who sustains a shoulder injury, and another one named Zach hurts his knee, so they start to have a lot of injuries all across the team, which really hampers them a lot. So then Nick actually says goodbye to his family in Columbus. Nick Foligno is the new guy who came in and fought the other player because of his captain getting hurt. So then he actually goes to join the Toronto Maple Leafs, and this is actually when he goes and becomes, you know, part of the whole brotherhood system there. He talks to the manager, he bonds really quickly with the team, so it's all good. Then the Leafs are chasing the top seed in the North, you know, and then Austin Matthews is going for the NHL's goal scoring title. He really wants that Art Ross trophy. I believe it is the Art Ross. So then now we see this secret club in their locker room, which is revealed to the players bond even more, doing different activities. So it's really cool to see a little bit of the behind the scenes action there. The final episode is called The First Round Monkey, which is actually the Leafs versus the Habs in the first round. So now this is actually the oldest rivalry face-off in the playoffs for the first time in 42 years, which is freaking crazy. So then the first place Maple Leafs, they actually go into the postseason with a very healthy lineup. All the players are good, no injuries, everybody's ready to go. However, John Tavares does suffer an injury that really puts a scary lens on things, you know. So without their captain and one of their best players, it's really hard for them to, you know, achieve playoff success. But then of course we know what happens. Wendell Clark visits Mike in Sudbury. They talk, you know, they kind of bond a little bit there. And then the Maple Leafs actually, they go up against the Montreal Canadiens in a very intense 7-game series, you know, which unfortunately, if I remember correctly, they end up losing. They did not go with the Stanley Cup that year, but you know, because of the injuries hampering them, that's actually well expected. So that's essentially a breakdown of every single episode, but now I'm going to get into even more detail in a broad sense after I show you guys another clip.
The team has not performed in the playoffs.
We have a team that has been through disappointments. We don't want to feel that, so let's get that fixed.
We gotta flip the script here. Let's go. Bingo.
You know why? Because we get to spend more time with each other.
Now, as always, one of my favorite aspects about this kind of docuseries is that we actually get to see so many more dynamics behind the team itself, man. The players, their relationships, and how they actually perceive wins and losses. It's something that a lot of us sports fans actually take for granted, because sometimes we will watch our team play a game and we get so pissed off when they lose, you know, especially if it's an important game like a playoff series or something, you know, anything related to a knockout phase where we would actually advance to a better part of a tournament. When we get eliminated from that, or we lose a crucial game against our rivals, we have the habit of getting very angry with the team and the players and the whole situation. However, it's not very often that we actually stop to think about what exactly is going on, you know? Like sometimes a player will not perform well during a game, and then we think, well, he sucks, you know? This guy is terrible, I hate him so much, he makes so much money, he should be playing well and should be happy, this and that. We forget that he's a human being just like us, and he might be going through a really hard time outside of the sport. In this case, off the ice. Sometimes a player will suffer an injury that's going to affect him much more than we could expect, you know? Like we look at him on the ice and see, okay, he got body checked, now he's hurt, he's off, but he might be back in the next game. But it completely takes a toll on his psychological aspect as well, because that injury might sideline him for a few weeks or even a few months, and throughout that time he's going to be at home, you know, worried about losing his job and maybe never playing for another team again, you know. How is he going to keep making money to support his family and the lifestyle that he lives, you know, because usually athletes, they splurge a lot of their money, you know, you're never going to see an athlete making millions of dollars, you know, playing a sport and living in like a freaking cabin in the woods or something. They're always going to live in very big houses in cities closer to where they're supposed to play, you know. So it's really hard to maintain a rich person lifestyle if you're not constantly making money, you know. So it's really complicated when a player gets hurt and doesn't play, does not perform well, and has the fear of not only losing his job but possibly ending his career prematurely, you know. We have seen many serious injuries completely ending careers permanently, so it's really complicated, especially because hockey is a very rough sport. We see the relationship with the players and the coaches, you know, the managers. Sometimes they don't really see eye to eye, but they still have to work through it, you know, because they're at the end of the day, they're all there to play and entertain us. So, and also the merchandising sales, how exactly the team, you know, the club is run behind the scenes. We see how much of we see a lot of the marketing department, you know, how they can spend money in this and that to bring more revenue, to bring more TV attendance and more people going to the stadium, you know, selling their shirts and stuff. It's really cool because it literally gives us the whole dynamic. The players training as well, you know, we get to see for the first time an all access exclusive at how the players train in a hockey team. and how grueling it is, how they treat injuries, how they come back with physical therapy. It's really good, and how the teammates bond with each other, you know, how they talk about hockey, they talk about strategies, they discuss ways to get better and win, you know. Sometimes something will happen during a game, like a fight or something, or a little altercation, and we'll see a player give you an interview talking about it, you know, behind the scenes. It's so awesome, man, you know. There's literally nothing that you can't get out of this, you know, regardless of what sport you watch or which team you're following. All of these All or Nothing series gives us so much amazing content, and it's really hard to even begin describing what's better, you know. And now, in terms of hockey, it is a complex sport to follow at times. You know, the editing is actually very nice. You know, there are a lot of cuts here and there that make it a little confusing to follow, but because hockey is such a very fast-paced sport, it's actually good to slow down a little bit and see it in a more condensed way, see some more close-up angles in slow motion, you know, just to see how exactly the puck works, how the puck travels and goes in the net. It's really cool to see that, how the goaltenders can react if they concede a goal, how the defensemen react if an offensive man goes past him, you know, how it is when a player scores a goal. You can see how the players react in the locker room after they win. Everything is euphoric, and then when they lose, they're all sad, you know, which comes with the job. But it's really cool to see all of that, man. It is awesome to see the players warming up, you know, and talking to each other in the intermissions in the locker room, getting all piped up, you know, all hyped, and then, you know, trying to console each other when they lose a game, you know, and the coach comes in and tries to help them out. It is amazing. It is awesome, and I love it so much. I will never get tired of watching these All or Nothing series. Now, before I continue and go into the final stretch, let's take a look at another clip here.
We care about one another like crazy.
We have to live the success that we all aspire to.
I remember coming to me and says, "Mama, I want to play hockey." Back then I was like, hockey? Okay.
It was a dream come true.
Now, it's worth noting that the Toronto Maple Leafs are not a small team, man. They're actually one of the biggest and most recognizable teams in the NHL. They were one of the original six, the first six teams that were established when the league was founded way back in the early 19th century, you know, and they actually have gone on to win 13 Stanley Cups, you know, the last one being in the 1966-67 season, when there was the NHL draft expansion, you know, where new teams came in, and their 13 Stanley Cups are second only to the Montreal Canadiens 24, you know, so they're a very big team, and they actually won the the division championship in the same year that this series was released, you know, so the 2020-2021 season. So despite the COVID ravaging the league and them going into the bubble, they still managed to win the division championship. So the point is that they're not a crappy team, you know. They're actually one of the best ones in the league, you know, even though they haven't won a freaking Stanley Cup in decades, you know. They have two recognized dynasties, you know, which was, you know, in like the late 40s to early 50s, and then the 60s, you know, there were two very famous dynasties there, which ended, you know, when the draft expanded. So like there's a very long and amazing, cherished, you know, history and tradition within the NHL. You know, they do have a very cool story. So I really do like the Maple Leafs, you know, but I support the Florida Panthers. So, but it was still nice to see a team, you know, such an old and famous team in the modern era, and seeing how the dynamics were playing out with the teammates, you know. And I really think that the boys represented really well what the Maple Leafs stood for, you know. It's really awesome. So despite having not won a Stanley Cup, they did come close a few times in the playoffs, no, but despite not having won a major trophy in so many years, they are still up there. No conference championships, no President's trophies, you know, but they are still top contenders every year, especially because of players like Austin Matthews, who's my personal favorite, you know, one of the best players in the league right now. You know, right up there with Sidney Crosby, Alex Ovechkin, you know, Connor McDavid. I just love all of these guys so much. So, but the point is that this series is awesome. If you're a hockey fan and you still somehow haven't seen it, maybe because you don't have Amazon Prime, sign up for Amazon Prime, you freaking cheapskate. Okay, it's not that expensive where you live. So, you know, you could definitely sign up for it and watch it, you know. And even if you're not a hockey fan, okay, maybe don't watch it because it's gonna confuse the hell out of you. But still, I recommend it anyway. I like it so much, such that my final rating for this one is 10 out of 10. All or Nothing Toronto Maple Leafs is perfect. It's awesome. I only wish there were just a few more episodes so I could see more, you know. Usually these All or Nothings have like around 8 or 10 episodes. This one has only 5, and I really hope that they make more with different NHL teams, you know. You could even do with the Montreal Canadiens, the most successful team, you know. You could do with the Pittsburgh Penguins, the little dynasty they have there with Sidney, the Washington Capitals with Alex Ovechkin. Hell, you could even do it with my team, the Florida Panthers, just because I want to see a little bit of how that works, you know, the dynamics there behind the scenes with Alex Barkov, you know. I just love the Florida Panthers so much, man. But this series was awesome. I liked it, and I definitely recommend it. And I hope you guys enjoyed this review, you know. I'm sorry if it was a little stinted and I had to use my cheat sheets because I couldn't memorize a lot of the things that were going on. But still, I hope it came out okay and you guys enjoyed it. And if you did, let me know in the comments below. And if you happen to like this video, please go ahead and give it a like. And also subscribe to my channel because I release videos every single day. And while you're at it, hit the notification bell too so you can know exactly what time of day come out. The videos, you know, the thing. Not like coming out of the closet or something. I'm not gay. What? So anyway, that's it, guys. This is Chazzy signing out for now. And as always, I will see you guys in the next video or the next all or nothing review with another team in a different sport. Roll the outro screen.
I dream about these moments as a kid. This is when my game comes to life.
Playing for the Leafs, it's like I'm playing for my community.
Running